Deep in the heart of the Black Hills, a young Lakota boy named Chaska stood alone beneath the vast night sky. At just 14 winters, he had been sent by his elders to seek a vision, a sacred rite that would guide his path to manhood. For 4 days and nights, he fasted and prayed, enduring hunger, thirst, and the whispers of the wind. Then, on the final night, as the stars burned bright, a great wolf appeared before him. It spoke not with words, but with a presence that filled his spirit with courage. The wolf became his guardian, a sign from the ancestors that he would one day lead his people through times of struggle. This was no ordinary dream. This was a vision quest, a journey into the unseen world that has shaped Native American lives for generations. Vision quests are far more than rituals. They are sacred rites of passage, moments when the physical and spiritual worlds touch, and the seeker returns forever changed. Across countless tribes, from the Lakota to the Cheyenne, the Apache to the Ojibwe, these quests have been the heartbeat of spiritual life. They are how warriors found strength before battle, how healers received their gifts, and how ordinary people discovered their purpose. At their core, vision quests are a conversation with the Great Spirit, a way to listen when the noise of the world falls away. But this is not just history. The power of the vision quest lives on, not only in Native communities, but in the universal human longing for meaning. So what exactly happens in these profound journeys? How do they work, and why have they endured for centuries? Stay with us, because by the end of this video, you'll understand not just the ancient wisdom behind vision quests, but how their lessons might speak to your own life today. To understand the power of vision quests, we must journey back to their beginnings, roots that stretch deep into the ancient traditions of Native American tribes. Long before written history, these sacred practices emerged from the land itself, woven into the spiritual fabric of countless nations. The earliest vision quests were born from necessity, a way for individuals to connect with the unseen forces that shaped their world. Among the Lakota, the quest was known as Hanbal Saya, crying for a vision. It was said that the first seeker received guidance from the spirit of the buffalo, a gift that taught the people how to live in harmony with the earth. The Cheyenne tell of a time when the ancestors wandered the plains, lost and hungry, until a young warrior's vision led them to the sacred mountain where the Great Spirit spoke. For the Apache, the quest was a test of endurance, a solitary vigil in the desert that revealed one's true path. These rituals were never uniform. Each tribe adapted the vision quest to their environment and beliefs, yet all shared a common thread. The quest was a bridge between the human and the divine. Elders passed down the teachings carefully, ensuring that every detail, from the prayers to the placement of sacred stones, held meaning. A young seeker didn't just stumble into the wilderness alone. They were prepared through stories, ceremonies, and the wisdom of those who had gone before. What's remarkable is how these traditions endured. Even as tribes faced displacement and hardship, the vision quest remained unbroken, a testament to its profound role in Native life. It wasn't merely about personal revelation. It was a way for entire communities to renew their connection to the land, the ancestors, and the Great Spirit. And that's why, centuries later, the quest still calls to those who listen. But how did seekers prepare for such a transformative journey? That's where the real discipline began. Now, let's uncover the heart of the vision quest, its spiritual power. This wasn't just a ritual. It was a sacred conversation with the unseen. For Native seekers, the quest opened a doorway to the Great Spirit, the force that breathed life into all things. Imagine standing alone on a windswept hill, your prayers carried away by the wind, and feeling something greater answer back. That's the moment the physical world faded, and the spiritual one drew near. The connection ran deeper than solitude. Every element of nature became a messenger. The rustle of leaves might whisper ancestral wisdom, or an eagle's flight could map out a destiny. Tribes believed these signs weren't random. They were deliberate gifts guiding the seeker toward their purpose. The Lakota spoke of Wakantanka, the great mystery, weaving visions into dreams and waking life alike. To them, a vision quest wasn't about demanding answers. It was about listening humbly to what the spirits chose to reveal. Ancestors played a vital role too. Many seekers reported visions of long-gone elders, their faces familiar from stories around the fire. These encounters weren't mere memories, they were active guidance, a reminder that no one walked the path alone. The Apache told of grandmothers appearing in dreams to teach healing songs, while the Cheyenne honored warriors who returned from quests with shields painted from spirit-led designs. The past and present blurred, proving that time in the spiritual realm moved differently. And then there was the land itself, a living participant. Mountains held prayers in their stones, rivers cleansed doubt with their currents, and even the silence of the desert hummed with meaning. To disrupt this balance was unthinkable. Seekers entered these spaces as guests, not conquerors, offering tobacco or feathers in exchange for the land's patience and wisdom. The quest was a reminder: humans weren't separate from nature but threads in its vast tapestry. This spiritual bridge wasn't crossed lightly. It demanded respect, patience, and the courage to face truths both beautiful and harsh. Yet for those who dared, the rewards were boundless: clarity, strength, and a bond with the unseen that lasted a lifetime. And as we'll soon see, such profound experiences required equally profound preparation now. Let's step into the careful and sacred process of preparing for a vision quest. This wasn't something anyone could rush into. It demanded deep commitment, both physically and spiritually. Before even setting foot in the wilderness, seekers had to undergo days or even weeks of preparation, guided by elders who ensured they were ready for the challenges ahead. Fasting was often the first step, a way to cleanse the body and sharpen the mind. By abstaining from food, seekers learned to rely on something deeper than physical strength. Hunger became a teacher, stripping away distractions and opening the heart to spiritual awareness. Some tribes also incorporated thirst fasting, pushing the body to its limits to break through to a higher state of clarity. Purification rituals played just as vital a role. Many tribes used sweat lodges, where heated stones and sacred herbs created a space for cleansing. As steam filled the lodge, prayers rose with it, carrying away impurities of the body and spirit. The Lakota called this inipi, a rebirth through sweat and prayer. Others might bathe in icy rivers or smudge themselves with sage, each method symbolizing a fresh start before the quest began. Mental conditioning was equally rigorous. Seekers spent hours in meditation, learning to quiet their thoughts and listen for the subtle voices of the spirit world. Elders taught them sacred songs or chants, words passed down through generations to focus the mind and invite visions. Discipline was key. Distractions or doubt could weaken the connection, so mental resilience was cultivated like a muscle. Respect was woven into every step. Before departing, seekers made offerings, tobacco, cornmeal, or handmade tokens to honor the spirits of the land they were about to enter. These weren't empty gestures, but heartfelt acknowledgments of the sacred exchange about to take place. The quest wasn't a demand for answers, it was a humble request for guidance, and preparation reflected that reverence. And then came the final, most personal step: setting intention. elders would ask seekers to reflect deeply on their purpose. Were they seeking healing, direction, strength? Without a clear heart, the visions might remain clouded. This introspection was the bridge between the physical preparations and the spiritual journey ahead, a moment to gather courage before stepping into the unknown. With body cleansed, mind focused, and spirit aligned, the seeker was ready. But as we'll soon see, even the most thorough preparation couldn't predict what the wilderness would reveal now. The journey takes us to the heart of the vision quest, the sacred location itself. This wasn't just a random spot in the wilderness. It was a place chosen with intention, where the veil between worlds felt thin. For many tribes, the land itself was alive with energy, and certain sites hummed with a power that could amplify visions. Mountains, for example, were often sought after for their closeness to the sky, a bridge between earth and the heavens. The Lakota revered the Black Hills as a place where prayers could rise more easily, while the Apache sought out high peaks where the air was thin and the mind sharp. These elevated spaces weren't just physically demanding, they symbolized the seeker's ascent toward wisdom. Forests, too, held deep significance. The dense quiet of ancient woods offered solitude, but also connection. Every rustle of leaves or call of a bird could carry a message. Tribes like the Cherokee saw forests as the domain of animal spirits, guides waiting to reveal themselves to those who listened closely. A grove of towering trees wasn't just shelter, it was a cathedral of living wisdom. Then there were rivers and lakes, places where water's endless flow mirrored the journey of the soul. The Ojibwe often chose islands or riverbanks, where the boundary between land and water blurred, just as the seeker's consciousness would during the quest. Water symbolized purification, but also the fluidity of visions, ever-changing, yet always moving toward truth. Even deserts, harsh and unforgiving, became sacred grounds for tribes like the Hopi. The vast emptiness stripped away distractions, leaving only the raw essence of survival and revelation. Here, the seeker confronted both the limits of the body and the boundless nature of the spirit. But no two tribes selected these sites in exactly the same way. Some relied on dreams or signs from elders to pinpoint the right location. Others followed traditions passed down for generations, returning to the same ancestral spots where countless seekers had gone before. What united them all was the belief that the land wasn't just a backdrop, it was an active participant in the vision quest, a teacher as vital as any elder. And so, with the place chosen, the seeker would step into that sacred space, not as a visitor, but as someone ready to listen, because in the silence of these powerful landscapes, the whispers of the spirit world grew loudest. Up next, we'll explore the crucial role of those who guided seekers through this profound rite of passage, the elders and spiritual mentors who helped translate the language of visions. Now, let's turn our attention to the wisdom keepers, the elders and spiritual guides who stood as pillars of support during these sacred journeys. Without their guidance, a vision quest could easily become a solitary struggle rather than a transformative rite of passage. These mentors were far more than just advisors. They were the bridge between the seeker and the unseen world, ensuring every step was taken with reverence and purpose. Elders held lifetimes of knowledge, passed down through generations, and they knew how to prepare a seeker both physically and spiritually. Before the quest even began, they would counsel participants on what to expect, warning them of the challenges ahead while instilling the discipline needed to endure. Fasting, prayer, and purification rituals weren't just solitary acts. They were taught and supervised, ensuring the seeker approached them with the right mindset. But their role didn't end with preparation. Once the seeker entered the sacred space, Elders and guides often remained nearby, not to interfere, but to watch and pray. Their presence was a silent anchor, a reminder that even in solitude, the seeker was never truly alone. Some tribes, like the Lakota, had designated intercessors who would offer prayers at a distance, calling upon the spirits to grant clarity and protection. When the quest was over, the real work of interpretation began. Visions weren't always clear. They came in symbols, fragments, or even unsettling encounters. Elders helped decode these messages, drawing on tribal lore and their own spiritual insight. A fleeting image of an eagle, for example, might signal courage to one tribe but carry a warning of pride to another. Without this wisdom, a vision could be misunderstood or even dismissed as a mere dream. And it wasn't just about explaining what was seen. Elders also guided seekers on how to integrate those revelations into daily life. A vision might call for a change in behavior, a new responsibility, or even a lifelong vocation as a healer or storyteller. The elder's role was to help the seeker carry that wisdom forward, ensuring the quest didn't end when the sun rose. It became part of who they were. This sacred partnership between seeker and mentor was what made the vision quest more than just a test of endurance. It was a dialogue between the individual and the spirits, yes, but also between the living and the generations that came before. Up next, we'll step into the solitude itself, exploring how fasting and isolation opened the door to visions that could reshape a life. Now, imagine stepping into a world of silence, where the only sounds are the whispers of the wind and the rustling of leaves. This is where the true test begins, the phase of fasting and solitude, a cornerstone of the vision quest experience. Stripped of everyday comforts, seekers enter a state of deep vulnerability, and it's in this emptiness that the spirit often speaks loudest. Fasting wasn't just about abstaining from food, it was a deliberate act of surrender. By setting aside physical nourishment, seekers made space for spiritual nourishment. The body's hunger became a reminder of the soul's deeper yearning for purpose, for connection, for answers. Many tribes believed that an empty stomach sharpened the mind, clearing away distractions so visions could emerge with clarity. Some quests lasted 3 or 4 days, others longer, but the principle remained the same: deprivation as a doorway to revelation. Solitude, too, played a pivotal role. Cut off from the chatter of the community, seekers faced something far more daunting themselves. Without the usual distractions of daily life, the mind could wander into uncharted territory, confronting fears, memories, and hidden truths. This isolation wasn't punishment, it was an invitation. In the quiet, the boundary between the physical and spiritual worlds grew thin, making it easier for messages from ancestors or spirit guides to come through. But solitude didn't mean abandonment. Even alone in the wilderness, seekers carried the prayers of their elders and the weight of their intentions. The silence wasn't empty, it was alive with possibility. Every rustle in the grass, every shift in the clouds could carry meaning, if one knew how to listen. Some described hearing voices or seeing flashes of light. Others felt a profound sense of presence, as if the land itself was speaking to them. The combination of fasting and solitude created a kind of sacred alchemy. Weakness of the body led to strength of the spirit. Hunger and silence became teachers, stripping away the unnecessary to reveal what truly mattered. And when visions finally came, they often arrived not with fanfare, but with quiet certainty, a knowing that this was the answer they'd been seeking all along. Next, we'll uncover how the natural world played its part, as animals and elements became messengers in these profound encounters. Now, let's step into the heart of the wilderness, where every creature and element holds a story. For those on a vision quest, the natural world wasn't just a backdrop, it was a living, breathing guide. Animals, plants, even the wind and water carried messages, each one a potential sign from the spirit world. Take the eagle, for example. Many tribes saw it as a symbol of vision and clarity, soaring high above the earth with a perspective few could match. If an eagle appeared during a quest, it might signal a call to rise above challenges or see a situation with new eyes. The wolf, on the other hand, often represented loyalty and intuition, a reminder to trust one's instincts or lean on the strength of community. Even smaller creatures, like the spider, wove their way into visions, symbolizing creativity and the intricate connections of life. Plants, too, spoke in their own silent language. A sudden encounter with sage might hint at the need for purification, while the sturdy oak could stand as a lesson in resilience. The Lakota, among others, paid close attention to the patterns of leaves or the way roots intertwined, seeing in them metaphors for human relationships and growth. Then there were the elements wind, fire, water, and earth. A gust of wind might carry whispers from ancestors, while a sudden rainstorm could symbolize emotional release or renewal. Fire, often central to rituals, was both a destroyer and a transformer, teaching seekers about the cycles of destruction and rebirth. Even the rocks underfoot held meaning. Their endurance mirrored the steadfastness required to complete the quest. But interpreting these signs wasn't always straightforward. A single animal or element could carry different meanings depending on the tribe, the seeker's personal history, or even the time of day it appeared. That's where the wisdom of elders came in, helping to decode the symbols and weave them into a coherent message. What made these encounters so powerful was their immediacy. Unlike dreams or abstract thoughts, nature's messages were tangible, something to be seen, heard, or felt in the moment. A rustling bush, a distant howl, or the sudden warmth of sunlight breaking through clouds. Each was a potential thread in the tapestry of the seeker's vision. Next, we'll delve into the most common visions reported by questers and the profound lessons they carried. Now, let's uncover the visions that have echoed through generations, those profound encounters seekers often brought back from their quests. Among the most common were meetings with spirit animals, each one a teacher in its own right. The bear, for instance, wasn't just a creature of the forest, but a symbol of introspection and healing. If a bear appeared, it might signal a time to retreat, to go inward and tend to one's wounds before re-emerging stronger. The buffalo, revered by plains tribes, embodied abundance and gratitude, reminding seekers that true strength came from giving rather than taking. Ancestors, too, frequently stepped into these visions, their presence a bridge between the living and the spirit world. A grandmother's voice on the wind or a warrior's silhouette in the firelight could carry urgent guidance, a warning, a blessing, or a call to honor forgotten traditions. These encounters weren't mere hallucinations, they were conversations, often delivering clarity about one's path or unresolved family ties. Then there were the elemental visions, swirling winds that carried voices, rivers that spoke in ripples, or flames that shaped themselves into symbols. A sudden thunderstorm might not just be weather but a message about upheaval and renewal. The Lakota, for example, saw lightning as a divine spark, a flash of inspiration or a sudden life-changing truth. Even the humble rock, unmoving for centuries, could appear in visions as a lesson in patience or the enduring nature of the soul. But perhaps the most transformative visions were those that defied easy explanation, a cascade of colors with no name, a song without words, or a door that led nowhere and everywhere. These were the mysteries that elders taught seekers to sit with, not to solve, but to absorb. The meaning might unfold over years, revealing itself in moments of need or quiet reflection. What tied all these visions together was their purpose: to strip away distractions and reveal essential truths. A quester might start their journey asking, "Who am I?" Or "What is my path?" The visions didn't always answer directly. Instead, they offered mirrors, reflections of inner fears, hidden strengths, or forgotten connections. Next, we'll journey across tribal lands to see how these quests took different shapes, from the Lakota's solitary vigils to the Apache's mountain pilgrimages. Now, let's step into the diverse landscapes of Native American tribes and see how vision quests unfold in strikingly different ways. While the core purpose, seeking guidance, remains the same, the rituals and traditions vary as widely as the lands these tribes call home. Take the Lakota, for example. Their vision quests, known as Hanbalsaya, often last 4 days and nights, a sacred number in their culture. The seeker climbs a solitary hill, fasting and praying, wrapped in a buffalo robe for protection. It's a test of endurance, but also a deep communion with the spirits of the wind, earth, and sky. The Lakota believe the visions that come during this time are not just personal, but gifts for the entire community, often shared in ceremonies to guide collective decisions. Then there's the Cheyenne approach, where the quest is woven into the fabric of their sun dance, one of the most sacred ceremonies in Plains culture. Here, seekers might pierce their skin as a sacrifice, tying themselves to the tree of life with leather thongs. The pain and exhaustion become a doorway to visions, and the entire tribe participates, singing and drumming to support the quester. Unlike the Lakota's solitary vigils, the Cheyenne emphasize unity, the idea that spiritual strength flows from the community as much as from the individual. Down in the Southwest, the Apache take yet another path. Their quests often involve pilgrimages to mountain peaks, where seekers carry prayer sticks adorned with turquoise and feathers. The Apache place great importance on the land itself, believing certain mountains hold ancient power. A quester might spend days tracing the footsteps of ancestral warriors, listening for their whispers in the rustle of oak leaves or the cry of a hawk. And unlike the structured timelines of the Lakota or Cheyenne, Apache quests can last until the vision arrives, whether that takes hours or weeks. There's no rushing the spirits. Even the interpretation of visions shifts from tribe to tribe. For the Lakota, a wolf might symbolize loyalty to the pack, while to the Apache, it could represent adaptability in harsh terrain. The Cheyenne might see a thunderstorm as a call to action, whereas the Lakota view it as a cleansing. These differences aren't contradictions, they're reflections of how each tribe's relationship with their environment shapes their spiritual language. What ties them all together is reverence. Whether on a windswept hill, in the heart of a sun dance circle, or atop a sacred mountain, the quest is never taken lightly. It's a pact between the seeker, the tribe, and the unseen world, a reminder that wisdom wears many faces, depending on who's listening. Next, we'll explore how these quests weren't just spiritual journeys, but also rites of passage for warriors, shaping some of history's most legendary leaders. Now, let's turn our attention to the warriors, those who sought not just wisdom, but the strength to protect their people. For young men in many tribes, the vision quest was more than a spiritual journey. It was a rite of passage that transformed them into defenders of their communities. Imagine a Lakota boy, barely in his teens, ascending a lonely hill with nothing but a buffalo robe and his prayers. He wasn't just seeking a vision. He was seeking the courage to face the uncertainties of war and the responsibility of leadership. One of the most famous examples is the Hunkpapa Lakota, a leader sitting bull. As a young man, he undertook a vision quest that would shape his destiny. After days of fasting and prayer, he saw a vision of enemy soldiers falling upside down from the sky, a sign, his elders interpreted, that he would one day lead his people to victory. Years later, this prophecy came true at the Battle of Little Bighorn, where Sitting Bull's leadership proved decisive. His vision wasn't just personal, it became a rallying cry for his people, a divine assurance of protection in the face of overwhelming odds. The Cheyenne, too, tied vision quests closely to warfare. Before major battles, young warriors would isolate themselves, often painting their bodies with sacred symbols and carrying medicine bundles for protection. They believed the spirits would grant them not just strength, but strategic insight, like where to ambush an enemy or how to evade pursuit. One legendary Cheyenne warrior, Roman Nose, was said to have received a vision that made him nearly invulnerable in battle, so long as he followed strict rituals, like never eating food touched by metal. Tragically, when this rule was accidentally broken, he fell in combat, a stark reminder of how deeply these spiritual covenants were taken. Among the Apache, the connection between vision quests and warfare was even more direct. A young warrior might be sent to a sacred mountain to fast until he received a vision of his future exploits. Geronimo, one of the most feared Apache leaders, credited his relentless fighting spirit to visions granted during his quests. He spoke of hearing voices in the wind, guiding him to evade capture and outmaneuver his enemies time and again. For the Apache, these visions weren't just metaphors, they were battle plans whispered by the ancestors themselves. What united these warriors across tribes was the belief that their visions were contracts with the spirit world, an exchange of devotion for divine aid. Whether it was Sitting Bull's prophetic dreams, Roman Nose's sacred protections, or Geronimo's whispered strategies, their quests blurred the line between the physical and spiritual, turning courage into something more than mere bravery. It was a sacred duty, etched into their souls long before they ever raised a weapon. Next, we'll see how vision quests served another vital role, not just for warriors, but for healers who sought gifts of a very different kind. While warriors sought visions of strength and strategy, healers embarked on quests of a different kind, ones that revealed the secrets of life, illness, and the natural world. For medicine men and women across Native American tribes, the vision quest was a sacred classroom where the spirits taught the art of healing. Picture a shaman kneeling by a solitary fire in the wilderness, not asking for victory in battle, but for the wisdom to mend broken bodies and souls. Among the Lakota, healers often received visions that led them to specific plants with powerful medicinal properties. One well-known account tells of a medicine man who, during his quest, saw a glowing root in his dream. When he awoke, he found the very plant later identified as bear root, which became a cornerstone of Lakota, a herbal medicine, used to treat everything from pain to infections. These visions weren't random, they were precise instructions, as if the earth itself was whispering its remedies to those who listened. The Cherokee had a similar tradition, where healers in training would fast and pray until the spirits revealed the uses of plants like ginseng or slippery elm. Some even reported being visited by animal guides like the deer, symbolizing gentleness and endurance, who taught them how to prepare poultices or conduct healing ceremonies. One Cherokee story describes a woman who, after her vision quest, could diagnose illnesses simply by holding a patient's hand, her touch channeling the energy of her spirit guides. For the Ojibwe, the connection between vision quests and healing went even deeper. shamans spoke of entering trances where they'd journey to the spirit world, bargaining with ancestors for the knowledge to cure the sick. A famous Ojibwe healer, Yellow Kidney, claimed his vision quest granted him the ability to see illness as a physical darkness inside the body, which he could then scoop out during rituals. His methods, though mysterious to outsiders, were revered within his community for their astonishing success. What set healers apart was their dual role as both spiritual and physical caretakers. A Navajo medicine man might return from a quest with a song, a healing chant gifted by the holy people, that could restore balance to a patient's mind. Meanwhile, a Hopi healer might learn to mix clay and herbs into a paste, its recipe revealed in a vision, to treat burns or fractures. These weren't just practical skills, they were divine collaborations, blending earthly knowledge with otherworldly guidance. Yet the greatest lesson from these healers' quests was humility. Unlike warriors, whose visions often centered on personal strength, medicine men and women were taught that their power came from surrender to the spirits, to the plants, and to the needs of their people. Their quests reminded them that healing wasn't about control, but about becoming a conduit for forces greater than themselves. Now, let's uncover another layer of these sacred journeys, ones undertaken not by warriors or healers, but by the women whose visions shaped their tribes in equally profound ways. But the power of vision quests wasn't reserved solely for warriors or healers. Women, too, played a vital role in these sacred journeys. Contrary to some misconceptions, many Native American tribes actively encouraged women to seek visions, recognizing their unique spiritual gifts and the wisdom they brought back to their communities. Among the Crow, for example, young women often undertook vision quests to connect with the divine and gain guidance for their roles as mothers, leaders, or craftswomen. One striking account tells of a Crow woman who, during her quest, encountered a white buffalo in her vision, a rare and sacred sign of abundance and peace. When she returned, her interpretation of the vision helped her tribe navigate a harsh winter by forging alliances with neighboring groups, ensuring their survival. The Cheyenne held similar reverence for women's visions. It was common for Cheyenne women to seek spiritual clarity before major life transitions, such as marriage or childbirth. In one recorded story, a woman named Weaves the Wind received a vision of a golden eagle circling above her. The elders interpreted this as a sign that she would become a storyteller, preserving her people's history through oral traditions. True to the vision, she went on to become one of the most respected keepers of Cheyenne lore, passing down stories that are still told today. Among the Apache, women's vision quests often centered on healing and protection. A famous Apache seer, Red Clay Woman, described how her quest revealed a hidden spring in the desert, its waters said to cure sickness. She led her people to the site, which became a place of pilgrimage for generations. What's remarkable is how these women's visions weren't just personal revelations, they became collective blessings, shaping the fate of entire communities. Perhaps the most compelling evidence of women's spiritual equality lies in the Lakota and dance, where female participants fasted and danced alongside men, seeking visions of strength and renewal. The Lakota believed that women's connection to the earth and cycles of life made their visions especially potent. One elder recounted how a young woman's vision during the sun dance foretold the arrival of a bountiful hunt, sparing her village from famine. These stories shatter the stereotype that vision quests were a male-dominated practice. Instead, they reveal a tradition where gender wasn't a barrier, but a lens through which different forms of wisdom could emerge. Whether guiding their tribes through crises, preserving sacred knowledge, or channeling healing energy, women proved that the spirit world spoke to all who listened with humility and courage. And just as these quests transcended gender, they also evolved with time. Next, we'll explore how modern seekers, both native and non-native, have adapted these ancient rites for today's world. Now, as we step into the present day, vision quests have taken on new forms while holding onto their ancient roots. Many Native American communities continue to honor these sacred traditions, but with thoughtful adaptations to fit modern life. For example, some tribes now incorporate vision quests into youth programs, helping young people reconnect with their heritage while navigating the challenges of today's world. A Lakota elder in South Dakota shared how his community guides teenagers through shortened quests, often a single night of solitude, focusing on themes like identity and purpose, blending ancestral wisdom with contemporary struggles like social media pressures or environmental concerns. Outside indigenous circles, non-native seekers have also been drawn to the transformative power of vision quests, though not without controversy. Some spiritual retreats, led by both native and non-native facilitators, offer guided quests in natural settings, emphasizing personal growth rather than tribal-specific teachings. These adaptations often include elements like journaling or group discussions afterward, creating a bridge between ancient solitude and modern communal healing. Yet, it's crucial to note that many native leaders urge caution here, stressing the importance of respecting the tradition's origins and avoiding shallow imitations. Interestingly, psychology has begun to recognize the value of these adapted practices. Therapists working with mindfulness and wilderness therapy sometimes incorporate vision quest principles, such as solitude in nature, to help clients break free from digital overload or emotional blockages. One counselor in Arizona described how a client, after a 2-day solo retreat inspired by Apache traditions, gained clarity on a lifelong struggle with self-doubt, proof that even pared-down versions can spark profound change. Meanwhile, urban indigenous groups are creatively reinventing the quest for city dwellers. In places like Minneapolis or Seattle, organizations host urban vision fasts, where participants seek revelations not in remote wilderness, but in the quiet corners of parks or even through meditative walks in bustling neighborhoods. The core idea remains, stripping away distractions to hear the deeper voice within. What's striking is how these modern twists still echo the timeless goals of the original quests, seeking truth, resilience, and connection. Whether rooted in tribal customs or blended with global spirituality, the vision quest endures because it answers a universal human longing to find meaning beyond the noise of everyday life. Of course, with these adaptations come important questions about cultural boundaries and respect. That's a conversation we'll explore next, as we delve into the complexities of cultural appropriation versus appreciation. Now, let's turn to a topic that demands careful consideration: the line between cultural appreciation and appropriation when it comes to vision quests. As these sacred practices have gained popularity beyond native communities, so too have debates about who should participate and how. Many indigenous leaders emphasize that vision quests aren't just spiritual exercises, they're deeply tied to tribal identity, history, and sovereignty. Taking elements of these rituals without understanding their context can strip them of meaning, reducing centuries-old traditions to trendy self-help tools. For instance, some commercial retreats market vision quests as generic wilderness experiences, often led by facilitators with no ties to native traditions. This raises ethical questions. Is it respectful to profit from a practice that, for many tribes, is a sacred rite of passage? Worse yet, when these adaptations ignore the specific teachings, prayers, or protocols of the original rituals, they risk distorting the tradition altogether. A Navajo elder once compared it to someone rewriting the Bible without knowing its language or stories. It might inspire, but is it still the same wisdom? That said, there are ways to engage with vision quests respectfully. Some native teachers welcome non-indigenous participants, but only when they approach the tradition with humility, proper guidance, and a commitment to learning its roots. The key is reciprocity, offering something in return, whether through supporting indigenous causes or amplifying native voices. One Ojibwe organizer in Wisconsin, for example, invites outsiders to join quests only after they've spent months studying tribal history and building relationships within the community. The heart of the issue lies in intention. Are seekers drawn to vision quests because they're exotic or mystical, or do they genuinely respect the cultures that birthed them? The difference matters. When done right, cross-cultural exchanges can foster understanding, but when traditions are borrowed carelessly, they become another chapter in a long history of native erasure. As we move forward, it's worth asking, how can we honor the power of these rituals without diluting their sacredness? That's a question each of us must sit with, just as seekers sit in solitude during their quests. Next, we'll look at how some of history's most renowned vision quests shaped the lives of legendary native leaders. Turning now to the pages of history, some of the most powerful vision quests have shaped the course of Native American leadership and resistance. Among these, Sitting Bull's vision before the Battle of Little Bighorn stands as one of the most profound. As tensions mounted between the Lakota and the United States cavalry, Sitting Bull retreated to seek guidance. During his quest, he saw soldiers falling from the sky like grasshoppers, their hats tumbling downward, a sign interpreted as a promise of victory. Days later, his people, alongside Crazy Horse and other warriors, defeated General Custer's forces in a battle that would echo through history. Another remarkable account comes from Black Elk, the Oglala Lakota, a holy man, whose vision as a young boy foretold his role as a healer and spiritual leader. He described a journey to the heavens, where the 6 grandfathers representing the sacred directions and the forces of life entrusted him with gifts to restore his people's strength. Though his vision came during a time of hardship, it became a cornerstone of Lakota spirituality, later shared in his famous book, Black Elk Speaks. Then there's the story of Plenty Coups, the Crow chief, who as a young man dreamed of a storm that wiped out the buffalo, leaving only the chickadee surviving by adapting. His elders interpreted this as a warning. To endure, the crow must ally with the encroaching settlers rather than resist. This vision guided his diplomacy, allowing the crow to retain much of their land while other tribes faced displacement. These quests weren't just personal revelations, they became collective turning points. Whether predicting battles, revealing healing wisdom, or guiding survival strategies, they show how deeply vision quests are woven into the fabric of Native American resilience. Next, we'll examine how modern science interprets these profound experiences, bridging ancient traditions with contemporary understanding. Now, let's step into the realm of science to uncover what happens inside the mind and body during a vision quest. Modern psychology and neuroscience offer fascinating insights into why these ancient rituals have such profound effects. When a person fasts and isolates themselves in nature, the brain undergoes significant changes. Deprived of food and social interaction, the mind enters a heightened state of awareness, where the boundaries between reality and the spiritual world can blur. scientists have found that fasting triggers a shift in brain chemistry. Without regular meals, the body starts burning stored fats for energy, producing ketones, which can alter brain function. This metabolic change often leads to sharper focus, vivid mental imagery, and even euphoria, similar to the states described by those who have experienced visions. At the same time, prolonged solitude reduces external distractions, allowing the mind to turn inward. This deep introspection can unlock subconscious thoughts, memories, and emotions, sometimes manifesting as powerful visions or messages. Neuroscientists also point to the role of sensory deprivation in altering consciousness. In the quiet expanse of nature, away from the noise of everyday life, the brain becomes more sensitive to subtle stimuli, like the rustle of leaves or the call of an animal. These sounds, often dismissed as background noise, can take on symbolic meaning in a heightened state, appearing as signs or omens. Studies on meditation and isolation tanks show that when the brain isn't processing constant input, it fills the void with creative, even mystical, experiences. But there's more to it than just biology. Psychologists suggest that the ritual itself, the intentional suffering and surrender to the unknown, creates a psychological breakthrough. By pushing past physical limits, participants often confront fears, insecurities, or unresolved trauma, leading to transformative clarity. This mirrors the therapeutic benefits of modern practices like mindfulness or wilderness therapy, where isolation and nature are used to heal and inspire. While science can explain the mechanisms behind these experiences, it doesn't diminish their spiritual significance. Instead, it bridges the gap between ancient wisdom and modern understanding, showing how vision quests tap into universal aspects of human consciousness. Next, we'll explore how these sacred journeys have been portrayed, and sometimes misunderstood, in movies, books, and popular culture. Now, let's shift our gaze to the silver screen and the pages of books, where vision quests have often been dramatized, romanticized, or even misunderstood. Popular culture has a way of reshaping ancient traditions to fit thrilling narratives, but how close do these portrayals come to the real thing? Take Hollywood, for example. Films and TV shows sometimes depict vision quests as instant, magical transformations, a lone hero spending a single night in the wilderness and emerging with supernatural powers or a crystal-clear destiny. While these stories make for gripping entertainment, they often skip the years of preparation, the guidance of elders, and the deep cultural context that grounds these rituals in Native American traditions. The truth is, a vision quest isn't a quick fix or a plot device, it's a sacred, lifelong journey of understanding. Books, especially those written by outsiders, can fall into similar traps. Some novels reduce vision quests to exotic adventures or mystical checkpoints, ignoring their spiritual weight and communal significance. But there are also respectful portrayals, like those by Native authors who weave authentic practices into their storytelling, honoring the patience, humility, and reverence these quests demand. Even video games and comics have borrowed elements of vision quests, often blending them with fantasy tropes. While creative reinterpretations aren't inherently wrong, they risk diluting the tradition's true purpose, connecting to ancestry, nature, and the self. The danger lies when audiences mistake these fictional versions for reality, overshadowing the lived experiences of Native communities. Yet, pop culture isn't all distortion. Some documentaries and indie films collaborate closely with tribal leaders to depict vision quests accurately, showcasing their beauty and complexity. These works serve as bridges, inviting wider audiences to appreciate, not appropriate, the tradition. So, what's the takeaway? Enjoy the stories, but remember, the real power of a vision quest lies not in Hollywood's flashy illusions, but in the quiet, profound wisdom of the people who have kept this practice alive for generations. Up next, we'll hear directly from those who have walked this path, as modern Native Americans share their personal testimonies of transformation. Now, let's step away from the world of fiction and into the real, lived experiences of those who have walked the path of the vision quest. These personal testimonies offer a raw and intimate glimpse into the profound transformations that unfold when tradition meets the modern seeker. One voice comes from a Lakota elder who recalls his first vision quest as a young man. He describes the overwhelming silence of the wilderness, how the absence of human noise made space for something deeper, the whispers of ancestors, the rustle of wind carrying messages. He didn't receive a dramatic vision, but a slow, unfolding realization of his role in his community. It wasn't about power, he says, it was about responsibility. The land taught me patience, and the spirits reminded me I was never alone. Then there's the story of a Navajo woman who embarked on her quest during a time of personal crisis. For 4 days and nights, she sat in prayer atop a sacred mesa, grappling with fear and doubt. On the final morning, a red-tailed hawk circled above her, a sign, she believed, of clarity and renewal. But the real lesson came later, as she integrated that moment into her daily life. The vision wasn't just the hawk, she explains. It was the understanding that healing isn't instant. It's a choice you keep making every day. A younger participant, a member of the Ojibwe tribe, shares how his modern upbringing left him disconnected from his roots. His vision quest, guided by his grandfather, became a bridge. In solitude, he dreamed of a towering pine, its roots stretching deep into the earth. That tree was my family, he reflects. It showed me that no matter how far I wander, those roots hold me steady. His journey didn't end with the quest, it began there, sparking a commitment to learn his language and traditions. These stories share a common thread. The vision quest isn't an escape from life, but a deeper engagement with it. The lessons aren't always grand or mystical. Often, they're quiet truths about belonging, resilience, and the interconnectedness of all things. And as we'll see next, these truths don't just live in memories, they shape the way seekers interpret their dreams long after the quest ends. But the journey doesn't end when the seeker leaves the sacred site. Dreams weave their way through every phase of the vision quest, acting as silent guides before, during, and long after the physical ordeal. For many Native traditions, dreams aren't just nighttime stories, they're conversations with the unseen, carrying warnings, instructions, and even glimpses of destiny. Before the quest begins, dreams often set the stage. A Cheyenne elder shares how his nephew dreamed of a wounded eagle weeks before his rite of passage. At first, the family feared it was a bad omen, but the elder recognized it as preparation. The eagle wasn't weak, it was healing, he explains. That dream taught my nephew that strength isn't about never falling. It's about knowing how to rise. When the young man later faced exhaustion on his quest, that dream became his anchor, reminding him that struggle precedes renewal. During the quest itself, the line between waking visions and dreams blurs. Fasting and solitude sharpen the senses, making sleep a fertile ground for messages. A Crow medicine woman describes how her most pivotal vision came not in daylight, but in a dream where her grandmother handed her a bundle of sage. I woke up clutching nothing, but my hands smelled like herbs, she recalls. That dream led her to seek out a forgotten family recipe for healing tea, reigniting her path as a healer. and after the quest, the dreams keep teaching. A Lakota storyteller recounts how, for years after his vision quest, buffalo visited his dreams during times of decision. Sometimes they stood calm, other times they stamped the earth. They weren't just symbols, he says, they were reminders to move with patience or act with courage, depending on what the moment demanded. These dream teachings share a truth: the vision quest isn't a single event, but a lifelong dialogue. The land and spirits speak first in solitude, but their whispers echo in the quiet of night, turning ordinary sleep into sacred ground. And as we'll see next, this wisdom doesn't stay hidden. It's celebrated and woven back into the community through powerful post-quest rituals. Now, as the seeker returns from their solitary journey, the community gathers to honor what they've brought back, not just in body, but in spirit. The rituals that follow a vision quest are as vital as the quest itself, weaving the visions into the fabric of daily life and ensuring their wisdom doesn't fade. Among many tribes, the first step is a purification ceremony. After days of fasting and exposure, the seeker is often smudged with sacred herbs like sage or sweetgrass, cleansing them of lingering exhaustion and preparing them to re-enter the community with clarity. The Lakota, for example, perform the inipi or sweat lodge ceremony, where steam and prayer wash away physical strain and open the heart to share revelations. Then comes the feast, a celebration of both survival and insight. Food isn't just nourishment here, it's a symbol of gratitude and connection. The Apache hold communal meals where the quester breaks their fast with dishes made from crops blessed by elders, reinforcing the bond between individual vision and collective sustenance. Stories flow as freely as the food, with the seeker recounting their experiences while elders help interpret symbols. A single vision of a bear might spark discussions on courage, healing, or even upcoming hunts, turning personal revelation into communal guidance. But the most enduring ritual is often the quietest: the integration of visions into daily life. For the Cheyenne, this might mean crafting a small pouch holding stones or feathers encountered during the quest, carried as a tangible reminder. A Navajo weaver might translate patterns from a vision into a new rug design, literally threading the spiritual into the mundane. These acts ensure the quest's lessons aren't locked away as memories, but lived as ongoing practices. And perhaps the most profound post-quest ritual is the passing down of these stories, when a young Lakota warrior shares his vision of a thunderbird with children by the fire, or when a Mohawk grandmother stitches a dream's symbols into a granddaughter's cradleboard. The quest's power multiplies across generations. The solitude of the wilderness gives way to the warmth of the circle, where visions become not just personal milestones, but shared compass points for the entire tribe. As we'll see, this return to community isn't the end. It's a bridge to the next challenge, where the seeker must now test their newfound wisdom against life's trials. But with great spiritual reward comes great risk. Vision quests are not gentle retreats, they are profound tests of endurance, both physically and mentally. The wilderness, while sacred, is also unpredictable. Seekers face the very real threat of extreme weather, from scorching heat to sudden storms, with little shelter beyond what nature provides. In the high deserts where the Apache conduct quests, dehydration can set in quickly, while in the northern plains, Lakota seekers might battle hypothermia during cold nights alone. Beyond the elements, there's the psychological toll. Days of solitude and fasting can plunge even the most prepared minds into disorientation or overwhelming fear. Visions aren't always comforting. Some bring terrifying encounters with shadowy figures or dredge up buried trauma. Without proper guidance, a quester might misinterpret these experiences as curses rather than challenges to overcome. That's why tribes never send seekers out unprepared or unsupported. Elders meticulously assess mental and physical readiness, and guides often station themselves just out of sight, close enough to intervene if danger arises. Spiritual dangers are taken just as seriously. Many tribes believe that venturing into the spirit world without proper protection can leave seekers vulnerable to negative energies or deceptive spirits. The Navajo, for example, emphasize the importance of protective prayers and corn pollen offerings to shield the quester. Meanwhile, the Cheyenne teach that arrogance, entering a quest for personal glory rather than humility, invites misfortune. Yet perhaps the greatest danger lies in returning too transformed. Reintegrating after a life-altering vision can be jarring, especially if the community struggles to understand the seeker's new perspective. Tribes address this through gradual re-entry rituals, like the Ojibwe's practice of having the quester spend their first nights back in a separate lodge, slowly sharing insights with elders before rejoining daily life. These safeguards aren't about eliminating risk, they are about honoring it. Every danger, from a rattlesnake bite to a haunting vision, is seen as part of the quest's teachings. As one Lakota elder put it, "The mountain tests you before it blesses you," and that wisdom, hard-won, becomes part of the story told around the fire for generations to come. Now, let's shift our focus to how these sacred journeys extend beyond personal transformation. They also ignite a deep commitment to protecting the natural world. For Native American communities, vision quests aren't just about individual enlightenment. They're a reminder of humanity's bond with the earth. When seekers spend days alone in the wilderness, listening to the wind, observing animals, and feeling the land's energy, they don't just return with personal visions, they return as guardians of the environment. This spiritual connection fuels environmental activism in powerful ways. Many tribes view their conservation efforts as a direct extension of their vision quest teachings. The Lakota, for example, see the Black Hills not just as a backdrop for quests, but as a living relative Pahasapa, the heart of everything that is. When pipelines or mining projects threaten these sacred lands, it's not just an environmental issue, it's a violation of the very relationship forged during those solitary vigils on the mountain. Similarly, the Standing Rock protests against the Dakota Access Pipeline drew strength from vision quest traditions. Water protectors there often spoke of visions that called them to defend the Missouri River, echoing the messages ancestors received during their own quests centuries ago. For these activists, environmentalism isn't a political stance, it's a spiritual duty, a promise made to the earth during moments of profound clarity. Even tribal-led reforestation projects or buffalo restoration efforts trace their inspiration back to vision quest insights. A Nez Perce elder once shared how a seeker's vision of a dying salmon run led the tribe to revive ancient fishing practices and challenge dam constructions. In this way, the quests become a bridge linking personal revelation to collective action. What's striking is how this perspective challenges modern environmentalism. While mainstream movements often focus on data and policy, Native communities ground their work in reciprocity, the idea that caring for the land is how the land cares for us. It's a lesson learned not in labs or conferences, but in the quiet solitude of a quest where the earth speaks plainly, "Protect me as I have protected you." This wisdom, passed down through generations of seekers, reminds us that environmental stewardship isn't just about saving ecosystems, it's about honoring a covenant with the natural world, one vision at a time. But beyond the spiritual and environmental impact, vision quests hold timeless lessons that resonate with anyone seeking meaning in today's fast-paced world. Imagine carrying just a blanket and a prayer into the wilderness, stripped of distractions, forced to confront your deepest fears and desires. That's where the first lesson emerges: resilience. Modern life bombards us with noise, endless notifications, deadlines, and pressures. Yet, vision quests teach us that clarity comes when we step away, when we embrace discomfort and stillness. It's in those quiet moments, far from Wi-Fi and convenience, that we rediscover our inner strength. Then there's the power of self-discovery. On a quest, there's no resume, no job title, no social media persona, just you and the raw truth of who you are. Many seekers return with a startling realization. The answers they sought were within them all along. In a culture obsessed with external validation, this mirrors the Stoic idea of looking inward. What if we spent less time curating our online image and more time listening to our own visions? Perhaps the most urgent lesson is harmony with nature. Native traditions don't see the earth as a resource to exploit, but as a teacher. A quest might reveal the patience of a spider weaving its web, or the adaptability of a river changing course, metaphors for navigating life's challenges. In an era of climate crises, this mindset shifts everything. It's not about saving the planet as if we're separate from it. It's about remembering we're part of its story. These aren't just ancient rituals, they're blueprints for modern thriving. Resilience isn't about pushing harder, it's about knowing when to pause. Self-discovery isn't a luxury, it's the foundation of purposeful action. And harmony, that's the thread connecting every lesson. When we honor our bond with nature, we honor ourselves. So here's the invitation. You don't need a mountain or a fasting ritual to start. Begin with a single question. What would your vision quest reveal? Now, as we bring this journey to a close, let's reflect on the enduring legacy of vision quests. These sacred rites are far more than historical footnotes. They're living traditions that continue to shape Native American identity, spirituality, and connection to the earth. From the Lakota Plains to the Apache Mountains, each quest carries forward a wisdom that transcends time. The understanding that true growth begins when we step into the unknown with humility and purpose. What makes these rituals so powerful isn't just their ancient roots, but their universal relevance. Whether it's the resilience forged in solitude, the self-awareness sparked by silence, or the reverence for nature that redefines our place in the world, vision quests offer a mirror to our own modern struggles. They remind us that some answers can't be Googled, they must be lived, felt, and earned under an open sky. So here's the challenge for each of us. How might you carve out space for your own vision quest, even in small ways? Maybe it's a silent walk in the woods, a day unplugged from screens, or simply sitting with a question that won't let you go. The goal isn't to mimic tradition, but to honor its spirit, to listen deeply, not just to the world around you, but to the voice within. Before you go, consider this. If you were to seek a vision today, what would you hope to find? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what resonates with you. And if this exploration sparked something in you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into history's most profound wisdom. Until next time, keep seeking.